Good morning, everybody. I wanted to title this particular video, Why a Smoothie Shop? Now, some people might think that the move that I made in order to get a job at a smoothie shop might be slightly unusual, especially considering the fact that my background is in schools and education, and I've worked as a language teacher and I've worked as a special educator. But that being said, I reason in a completely different way than most people about most things. And so I thought I would make a video to explain how it is that I'm reasoning this out. Now, first of all, you have to understand that I have rebuilt my life three times. You know, when you're in a country and in a place for a while, you build things up. You make investments, things such as a driver's license, a reputation. You build up, you build up an understanding of how that particular system works. You develop relationships, and so on and so forth. And all those things are what consists of a life. So I did that as a teenager, and then I ended up moving when I was 20 to Sweden and having to relearn everything, including language. Did the very best job that I could, was there for 15 years, ended up getting a divorce, and then basically moving right back to the US and having to rebuild my life all over again, which was almost as tough as when you moved to Sweden for the first time, or when I moved to Sweden for the first time. So I have lost everything and rebuilt everything 3 times at least, and so I would say that I'm almost kind of good at rebuilding my life, or at least I'm getting there. And so I have learned to reason it out in a slightly different way, and I have a slightly different perspective too. Because when I was in Sweden, I did the very best job to do the very best thing that I could in order to build the best life that I possibly could. I got an education, and I did all those different things that people would expect you to do. And I built relationships, and I was part of church, and I had all these different things that I was involved in and doing. And then after that collapsed, and I really started to analyze, well, what did my life in Sweden consist of? And I can tell you that even though I had spent a lot of time and energy building a life in Sweden, it was never going to look like the life that I wanted, and it was never going to be what it was that I hoped for it to be. So because of that, I probably have a very unique way of looking at what a life consists of. And to me, what I personally decided is that what most people think of as power or success or money really isn't that way at all. It's not that I don't see status, I do see status, but I define it in a completely different way than most people. So what I really truly believe is the most important thing to success or to a life is a good foundation. And to me, what a good foundation is surrounding yourself with people with good judgment, those who love the truth, and those people who are willing to stand up for the truth. And those are the people that I really truly want to build a life with. So in my perspective, Sweden was never going to work out for me, because I could never find people who really truly loved the truth in Sweden, and those who really didn't have any kind of motivation to really stand up for what was true. And if you don't have that, you're always going to have shifting sands, and it's not a good ground to build on. So to me, in so many ways, even though it was painful to go through a divorce and to see your whole life collapse, it was one of the best blessings the best things that's ever happened to me. And it's probably a great big reason and motivation for some of my freedom and some of the ways that I look at the world today. So when I talk with kids and I talk with adults, I see people in a really great big hurry to get somewhere, and they want to get somewhere just as fast as they possibly can, and they're really worried that life is going to pass them by. I don't really have that fear. Not really. Because the reason being is because I've seen my life collapse at least 3 different times. And I've had to rebuild at least 3 different times. So I don't feel that even if you throw all of your energy into something, it's necessarily going to work out the way that you hope it to be. So to me, time isn't really a factor. I am 40. I'm nearly 41 years old, which means that, of course, my working years are starting to dwindle, and things like youth and vigor and energy are starting to dwindle. So I keep those things in mind, but I still rather assume that anything that God intends for me to have, I'm going to end up with anyway. And I certainly don't despise the days of small beginnings, because for me, it is about searching out and seeking out people who love the truth and have sound judgment. And it is sometimes in those very small places that you can see those people in the very, very best way. So that is one of the reasons. The other reason is because whenever you are looking to rebuild your own reputation, you basically need to start with making sure that you're doing something that you can shine the very brightest at, that you are able to meet a need that you're able to do, and you're able to do it well. And then it's also important to surround yourself with people who can acknowledge that you did that well, and that's connected to sound judgment and finding people who see the truth and are able to see the truth in the proper way. So all these things intertwine into rebuilding life, seeing status in a totally different way, and also putting priority, and also taking your good old easy time. So that is my personal belief on why it is very, very important. If you go into a school situation because it's high status and maybe you're making more money, but the people who work there are insane. They have bad judgment. They're constantly so ambitious that they're only anxiously looking to tear other people down. Then you are entering into an environment of a temporary kind of thing. You are surrounding yourself with people who are going to hurt you in the long run, even if you get the temporary boost of status or the temporary boost of a higher paycheck. So the foundation is bad. So a school environment can be a very, very bad place to be, a very bad foundation. Also, too, if you don't have a long-standing reputation with a certain group or a certain amount of people, it is very easy for somebody with bad judgment in that group to take you down. And this is just personal wisdom. So that can happen anywhere. That can happen in any place, because human ambition is so strong and people are so looking to climb somewhere as quickly as possible that even if you get the lowest status job, you can find people with extremely poor judgment and extremely poor ethics. But that being said, you have to, in my opinion, in order to build a really strong foundation for a really good life, you have to find people with good judgment, and you have to find the place where you can shine the brightest in order to build the reputation in someplace small before you can grow into someplace bigger. So for me, sometimes I have been really, really wrong in thinking that lower status can actually help more with building that. And that's not necessarily true either. If you know that there's a group of very sound thinking, very high quality people, which to me isn't necessarily the rich or the powerful. It's those who love the truth and don't compromise the truth. If you find that in a really high status place, you should go in that really high status place. But if you find that in a really low status place or a really low status type person, then you should go with that person. So to me, I redefine that because, in my personal opinion, if you are working, you know, if you're working at McDonald's, if you're working at McDonald's and you have really good managers, you're only going to grow from that point on. But if you have really bad managers, you're going to be stuck. You're not going anywhere. But that's the same thing as with a school or anything else like that. So anywhere I go, I'm always looking at the people, I'm looking at their judgment, how they judge and they weigh issues and situations. I'm looking to see if I can succeed and therefore grow either in that particular place or even further beyond that particular place. If you have bad managers with bad judgment, you're going to be stuck in that one spot and you're not going to be able to go anywhere because they'll ruin your reputation for the next place that you want to go to. So sound judgment to me is the most important thing and the highest type of status person. So, and usually, the people with the best judgment are those who go the furthest. They go the furthest in life. Their families are the healthiest and the happiest, and so on and so forth. The people who are the most ambitious, you can have a really successful company that has a tremendous amount of success because of something that happened 10 years ago. But if the place becomes overrun by ambitious, self-seeking people, it's time when the sun is basically going down and going out, and it's not going to last. So to have a lasting legacy, to have a lasting life, to have a lasting foundation, it really needs to be built by surrounding yourself with people with good judgment. And that's my personal reason for why I work at a smoothie shop. It's a good job. It's something I really enjoy. It's something that I feel like I'm good at to a certain extent. Maybe not necessarily the smoothies. I'm still perfecting my art of smoothie making, but certainly dealing with customers and certainly cleaning is something that I really like. I find to be really happy and peaceful. And also the people who are owning the smoothie shop and who I'm surrounding myself with are people with very good judgment. And I had to watch to make sure of that for some time and see how they deal with certain things that come up. And everything that I've personally seen about the foundation of that smoothie shop is an incredibly good one. It has a good strong foundation. And so I personally only see the best for that group who own that shop, but also for the shop itself, and but also that whether I plan on staying at that shop or moving on someplace else, it's only going to benefit my personal progress as well as theirs by my being there. And since I'm in no hurry, I can see that life can turn upside down really, really quickly. I am completely fine with staying there for a really long time or not or whatever, but it's a good foundation. And that is why I chose a smoothie shop.